According to some industry figures, single-player games are a thing of the past and no one wants them anymore. These days it's all about live service, multiplayer games that can retain players and keep them coming back day after day. A quick look at the best PS4 single-player games proves this to be absolute nonsense. If you're tired of the way the industry is going, there's no shortage of brilliant single-player experiences for you to enjoy on your PlayStation 4, then come with me for the first video game. A role-playing game with action more fulfilling than most corridor shooters, Guerrilla Games' heritage with first-person shooters means that Horizon Zero Dawn's sizable quest list is one you'll actually enjoy clearing. The real surprise here, though, is the richness of the post-apocalyptic world that protagonist Aloy inhabits. This is a science fiction story set against a tribal backdrop, and it marries these incongruent themes masterfully. An incredible effort from the Dutch developer. From Software's action RPG takes you to a sprawling open-world setting of the lands between us the Tarnished. With dungeons to explore, great big foes to conquer, and all manner of challenges to overcome, Elden Ring delivers a rich, engrossing experience that will hold your attention. While you can expect to be in for several tough fights, there's nothing quite like the feeling of emerging victorious when you take down a particularly strong enemy. And with character customization and an impressive fantasy landscape to discover, Elden Ring quickly became one of the biggest games of 2022 and is counted among the best From Software games around. It even managed to shift over 16 million copies since launch as of August 2022. In the library of first-party PlayStation games, few hold a candle to Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. This story-intensive adventure contains third-person gameplay. Nathan Drake is a lovable scoundrel who falls between Indiana Jones and Lara Croft, who intends to stay in retirement. The stakes are raised when Nathan's brother and longtime friend arrive on the scene. This addition to the Uncharted series incorporates open-world elements with lore to discover. The lengthy campaign Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is like playing through a summer blockbuster with a decent plot. While, yes, Arkham Knight seems to be too gleeful in stuffing you in the Batmobile every chance it gets, few games showed off the graphical power of the PS4 as early on in the console's life as Arkham Knight. And it still looks amazing to this day. Whether you're punching hapless goons with Arkham's signature combat system or surveying the landscape of Gotham City from a suitably gothic rooftop, Arkham Knight is a real looker. It, of course, doesn't hurt the game that the aforementioned combat is so satisfying and that there's plenty to see and do around Gotham. It's not a perfect game by any means, especially on PC, but as a conclusion to a fantastic franchise that put Rocksteady on the map, it did much more right than wrong. Capcom's initial announcement of Resident Evil 2 Remake was naturally met with some skepticism at first, but we couldn't have been more off base. The studio's loving recreation of its 90s survival horror classic is the perfect example of how to modernize an old game while staying true to its roots. Leon's harrowing gauntlet through the Raccoon City Police Department is one of the scariest, toughest campaigns we've ever had the joy of running through, completely accessible to series newcomers yet still littered with Easter eggs to delight the Resi faithful. This is how horror is done, and proves just how much life there is in Capcom's seminal franchise yet. Metro Exodus is a first-person shooter game developed by 4A Games and published by Deep Silver. Released in 2019, it is the third installment in the Metro video game series based on the novels by Dmitry Glukhovsky. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic Russia and follows the story of Artyom, a survivor who must flee the underground metro tunnels of Moscow and embark on a journey across the devastated landscape of Russia in search of a new life. Metro Exodus features a blend of stealth, exploration, and survival horror elements, along with a gripping story and immersive atmosphere. The game has been praised for its detailed world, engaging narrative, and tense gameplay. It may not have got off to the best launch, but make no mistake, Cyberpunk 2077 is still well worth your time. For the murky background behind its development and its initial litany of game-ruining bugs, Cyberpunk's Night City is undeniably an exhilarating place to explore. Featuring a brilliant soundtrack, industry-leading voice acting, and enough side quests to shake a bloody baronet, Cyberpunk 2077 is about as epic as an open-world epic can get. Receiving a constant stream of patches and a full current-gen upgrade post-launch, it's an experience that is only getting better over time. Sure, it's not The Witcher 3, but if you fancy a dystopian sci-fi RPG, there are few better. Dark Souls 3 is an action role-playing game developed by From Software and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment. It is the fourth installment in the Souls series and was released in 2016. Set in a dark fantasy world, the game features challenging gameplay, intricate level design, and a deep lore-filled world. Players take on the role of the Ashen One, a character who is tasked with ending the cycle of the Age of Fire and linking the First Flame. With its challenging combat, atmospheric world, and deep RPG elements, Dark Souls 3 is a must-play for fans of the series and the action RPG genre. Some of the finest of feathers in Naughty Dog's well-groomed plume, The Last of Us Remastered is not just an improved version of one of PlayStation's greatest ever games, it's arguably one of the most impressive releases of all time. An all-rounder that marries tense gameplay with compelling characterization and sublime presentation, Joel and Ellie's cross-country escapade is as somber as it is heartwarming. The follow-up to 2013's The Last of Us is the pinnacle of Naughty Dog's storytelling ambitions during the life of the PS3 and PS4. Part 2's ambitious, uncompromising story delivers at nearly every unexpected turn, with character arcs that are poignant, risky, and devastating. Naughty Dog asks you, the player, to do your best to reckon with morally ambiguity in ways that have evoked some of the strongest across-the-board reactions that we've seen from any game, ever. It's also perhaps Naughty Dog's most mechanically complex game to date, and its stealth and action systems delivers moment after moment that feel like they should be scripted but are instead entirely dynamic. It may be one of the more divisive games of the generation, but it's also one of the best, an absolute haymaker of a game we still can't stop thinking about. Flashy character action doesn't get much better than Devil May Cry 5, a white-knuckle affair with style and spades and one of the deepest combat systems you're likely to find on PS4. This Capcom tour de force looks absolutely sensational and is packed to bursting with memorable moments, but it's that graded combo-based gameplay that will keep you gripped long after you reach the credits. From the developer of the infamous series comes an exhilarating action-adventure game, Ghost of Tsushima. It plays differently from games like The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, as there is a focus on action and exploration over RPG mechanics. However, Ghost of Tsushima has a lot of lore and engaging characters to interact with to help build a believable and beautiful world. Ghost of Tsushima is set during the first Mongol invasion of Japan and tells an inspiring story of how the people on the little island fought back. The duels and combat are some of the best in any generation, rivaling titles like Nier and Sekiro for swordplay. Whether played on the PS4 or the PS5, the visuals are awe-inspiring. Trust Platinum Games to somehow make the newest entry in a barmy series that never really had that much love one of the most critically acclaimed single-player games on PS4. While it's not for everyone owing to how unconventional it is, Nier Automata is a wild, seriously imaginative ride for those who are willing to have their expectations subverted. You won't play anything else quite like Nier Automata. With many different endings and gameplay mechanics that barely settle for more than a second, Nier Automata tries many different things and nails almost every single one. 2018's God of War shows an obvious level of care that went into crafting its world, characters, and gameplay, evolving a long-standing PlayStation franchise into a testament to the power of storytelling in games and making it our choice for the best PlayStation 4 game, period. Every aspect of God of War feels intentional, interconnecting with every other major aspect of the game, making exploring every inch of its world a rewarding opportunity. Everything from the main story to side missions and seemingly innocuous collectibles factor into your understanding of this new Acer-inspired world and its major players. It somehow never makes any of that feel like a dry history lesson, though, and God of War is constantly making smart, economical use of storytelling. It's also just such a fun experience, with the new Leviathan axe being one of the most satisfying game weapons we've used since we originally picked up the Blades of Chaos back in 2005. Bundled with smart progression, fascinating environments, and an impactful story that offers an insightful exploration of one of gaming's most notorious anti-heroes, God of War is undoubtedly one of the best experiences of the generation as a whole, and a shining example of what the PlayStation 4 has to offer. God of War Ragnarok is undoubtedly better on PlayStation 5, granted, but we can say that about a lot of games now. The PS4 is still a very capable console, though, and if you haven't yet upgraded, you shouldn't miss out on playing the latest installment into the God of War franchise. The original is still one of the best single-player games on PS4, you'll find it further down this list, in fact. But its sequel is bigger and better in just about every way, expanding Kratos and Atreus' story in truly meaningful ways. Death Stranding is Hideo Kojima's first game after going independent, and it's a suitably crazy debut. You play Sam Porter Bridges, a delivery man in an age where the world has been devastated by the titular event. Charged with reconnecting a fractured United States, it's down to you to traipse across the land, delivering important supplies and hooking up remote outposts to a shared network. It's unlike anything else, with your biggest obstacles being the uneven terrain and fragile goods on your back. Online connectivity populates the game with useful equipment and structures created by other players, so you're all in it together. Death Stranding is an acquired taste, but its bonkers story and tranquil gameplay help it stand out. As one of the best big-budget JRPGs on the PS4, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is a must-buy for gamers looking for great side content and a long story. Fans of the original game still have much to enjoy as the game finds a meaningful way to take the story in a new direction. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is also one of the best-looking titles on the PS4 and still matches up well with the PS5 version. The combat system feels like a blend of old and new by modernizing the classic Final Fantasy fighting system with action-based mechanics. Hogwarts Legacy is an upcoming action role-playing game set in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Developed by Portkey Games and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, the game is set in the 1800s at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Players will experience life as a student at Hogwarts, learning spells, brewing potions, and exploring the magical world. Infamous Second Son is an action-adventure game developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Released in 2014, the game is the third installment in the Infamous series. Players control Delsin Rowe, a young man who discovers he has superhuman powers and must decide how to use them in a world where superhumans are feared and persecuted. Even though it is far from a perfect experience, Days Gone is still a polished and enjoyable open-world action-adventure with a compelling narrative. Days Gone encourages players to be creative in combat when taking on large numbers of enemies on screen at once, setting up traps, and even leading hordes of zombies into enemy camps. Days Gone has a dynamic world with fights and situations that compare to Horizon Zero Dawn, with a similar approach to tackling the horde of enemies, stealth, and gathering pieces of information that develop the storyline. Final Fantasy XV is a role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix. Released in 2016, it is the 15th main installment in the Final Fantasy series. The game follows the journey of Prince Noctis and his companions as they set out on a quest to reclaim his kingdom and defeat the forces that have invaded it. Final Fantasy XV features an open-world environment with action-based combat, allowing players to explore the world and engage in real-time battles. The game has been praised for its stunning visuals, emotional story, and dynamic combat system. Metal Gear Solid 5. The Phantom Pain is without question the most ambitious entry in the Metal Gear series. So ambitious, in fact, that it's something of an unfinished masterpiece. While a lot of hardcore fans of the series were disappointed by the game's scattered story, it's hard to deny that the moment-to-moment gameplay is absolutely phenomenal. On top of rock-solid movement and a huge, sometimes literal, sandbox to explore, the Phantom Pain gives players a huge arsenal of weapons, vehicles, gadgets, and AI companions to approach missions creatively. As always, stealthy tactical gameplay is rewarded heavily, but if a mission goes sideways, or if you're feeling squirrely, the game doesn't punish you too hard for getting loud and messy. Even if you've never played another Metal Gear game, this is a hell of an experience. If the plot leaves you with a big question mark over your head, don't feel left out. That's part of the fun. From the minds behind Dark Souls and Bloodborne comes something that hates its players' mental well-being just like the rest of their games. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice is a tough game that will damn you if you don't learn the value of patience. Sekiro is all about the art of combat, whereas Soulsborne is about rolling until you can roll no more, which is only really a half-joke. Using inch-perfect deflections and genuine strategies, you are able to become the ultimate shinobi. It's hard not to feel empowered when you can grapple from rooftop to rooftop. Sekiro also represents from embracing more story in their action games. Without wanting to spoil anything, it really is some of their more affecting and somber work yet. Many might give up before the narrative even really starts to unfold, but they shouldn't. What can be said about Shadow of the Colossus that hasn't been said already? It's truly among PlayStation's best games, and this PS4 remake presents it in the best possible light. Set in a barren open world, devoid of almost all life, you must venture out and slay numerous colossi that are peacefully roaming the land. Each of these boss-style encounters is a puzzle in itself, and they each feel like epic confrontations thanks to incredible animation and music. Remade on PS4, it looks and runs better than ever, too. Released in 2018, Red Dead Redemption 2 is by far one of the most epic experiences of any generation. Like its predecessor, RDR2 is set during the American Wild West, but it puts players in the shoes of an outlaw named Arthur Morgan as its primary protagonist. As a prequel set several years before the first Red Dead Redemption, gamers will occasionally step into the shoes of a young John Marston. The map in RDR2 is one of the most immersive open-world experiences ever created, and the visuals truly feel next-gen. The incredible attention to detail put into every town is astonishing and captures the gritty and grimy towns in shows like Hell on Wheels and Deadwood. Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War is a first-person shooter game developed by Treyarch and Raven Software and published by Activision. Released in 2020, it is the 6th installment in the Black Ops series and the 17th installment in the Call of Duty franchise. Set during the early 1980s of the Cold War, the game follows CIA officer Russell Adler as he pursues an alleged Soviet spy named Perseus, whose stated goal is to subvert the United States and tilt the balance of power toward the Soviet Union. The game features a single-player campaign, multiplayer modes, and a zombies mode, offering a variety of gameplay experiences for players. Insomniac knocked it out of the park with its first Spidey game, but the follow-up is arguably even better. As the name implies, Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales focuses on the younger, less experienced hero as he gets to grips with his new abilities, some of which are wildly different from Peter's. While the open world is largely the same, playing as Miles refreshes the game in a few small ways. His electrical powers amp up combat, a penchant for aerobatics makes swinging even more fun, and the story explores his home life and family to great effect. It's a smaller game than Spider-Man 1, but it packs just as much punch, if not more. Dishonored 2 is an action-adventure game developed by Arcane Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. Released in 2016, it is the sequel to the 2012 game Dishonored. Set in the steampunk-inspired world of the Empire of the Isles, players can choose to play as either Empress Emily Kaldwin or her father and royal protector, Corvo Attano, as they seek to reclaim the throne from an otherworldly usurper. Dead Island 2 is an upcoming action role-playing game developed by Dambuster Studios and published by Deep Silver. It is the sequel to the 2011 game Dead Island and is set in an open-world zombie-infested California. Players will explore the world, scavenge for supplies, and battle hordes of the undead in a bid to survive. Titanfall 2 is a first-person shooter game developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts. Released in 2016, it is the sequel to the 2014 game Titanfall. The game features a single-player campaign that follows the story of Jack Cooper, a militia rifleman who becomes a pilot of a Titan, a large mech-style exoskeleton. The game also includes a multiplayer mode with fast-paced, mech-based combat. Still one of the best exclusives on the PS4, Bloodborne is a Lovecraftian action RPG from the creators of Dark Souls and Elden Ring. While all the Souls games have moments that can make players jump out of their seats, Bloodborne leans more into the horror genre with its terrifying atmosphere, sounds, and horror-based creatures. Even after the epic Elden Ring launched, many fans consider Bloodborne the best title in FromSoft's library. It is a faster game than the Dark Souls trilogy, where the combat forces the player to dodge and counter instead of relying on shields. CD Projekt Red's sprawling fantasy epic has become one of the most noteworthy games of all time, one that set a new standard for open-world RPGs. With a grim yet gorgeous world that stretches across the better part of an entire continent, every corner, cave, swamp, or city street of The Witcher 3 has something to discover. Its 60-plus hour main story is a great adventure, full of mystery and intrigue that draws from the deep lore of author Andrzej Sapkowski's books, but it's Geralt's expertly crafted side stories, monster hunts, and offbeat adventures that really make The Witcher 3 and its 2 huge expansions truly exceptional. It's a game where you can easily get lost for hundreds of hours and still not see everything it has to offer, but every one of those hours will be absolutely worth it. The best Japanese RPG on PS4 just got even better with Persona 5 Royal. The original Persona 5 was already a masterpiece for many, but this greatly enhanced and significantly expanded re-release is basically Persona perfection. Balancing elements of everyday life simulation with amazing turn-based combat and a lot of cool dungeon crawling, it's a truly immaculate title, brilliantly cohesive, refined, and quite possibly the most stylish game in existence. Rockstar's latest and greatest open-world felony simulator made its debut at the tail end of the last console generation, handily breaking records as the fastest-selling entertainment product in history, so it's no surprise that it got ported to current gen. What is surprising, perhaps, is just how much of an upgrade it got in the process. Up-res textures, totally overhauled lighting effects, and a fully functional first-person option were just some of the litany of updates and tweaks to the series' biggest and best game yet. Whether you're after a sprawling single-player campaign that provides a ruthless skewering of 21st-century American life, or a multiplayer component with years of big free updates and an extremely active community, or just a sandbox where you can do crimes either alone or with friends, Grand Theft Auto 5 and GTA Online really does offer something for everyone. Lost Judgment is an action-adventure video game developed by Ryuji Gotoku Studio and published by Sega. It is the sequel to 2018's Judgment and the third entry in the Judgment series. The game follows private detective Takayuki Yagami as he investigates a series of mysterious events, including a murder case and a school bullying incident. Set in the fictional district of Kamurocho in Tokyo and the real-world city of Yokohama, Lost Judgment offers a compelling narrative, engaging gameplay mechanics, and stunning visuals, making it a must-play for fans of the series and newcomers alike. An exceptional third-person shooter with a trippy supernatural twist, Control is not only our game of the year for 2019 but stands out as one of the most unique adventures of the generation. The seasoned team at Remedy Entertainment brought their years of experience to bear on one of the coolest ability/weapon sets in recent memory, which made for some of the most satisfying and frenetic telekinetic combat ever put to pixels. On top of its excellent superpowered gunplay, Control features some truly inspired environmental design, its oldest house a shape-shifting labyrinth like something from a fever dream shared by Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch. Throughout its monster-filled halls, you'll undertake memorable side quests, hunt for upgrades to your abilities and gear, and hunt down a litany of collectibles that all help flesh out the eerie bureaucracy that's at the center of Control's impossibly unique experience. Mortal Kombat 11 is a fighting game developed by NetherRealm Studios and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Released in 2019, it is the 11th main installment in the Mortal Kombat series. The game features a roster of iconic characters from the franchise, as well as new fighters, and offers a story mode, multiplayer modes, and customizable characters with a variety of skins and gear. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an action role-playing game developed and published by Ubisoft. Released in 2020, it is the 12th major installment in the Assassin's Creed series. Set in the 9th century during the Viking invasion of Britain, players control Eivor, a Viking raider who becomes embroiled in the conflict between the Assassins and the Templars. The game features open-world exploration, RPG mechanics, and intense combat, allowing players to forge their own Viking saga. Resident Evil 4 Remake is an upcoming survival horror game developed and published by Capcom. A remake of the critically acclaimed 2005 game Resident Evil 4, the remake aims to modernize the gameplay, visuals, and mechanics of the original while staying true to its core elements. Players will once again step into the shoes of Leon S. Kennedy as he investigates the mysterious disappearance of the president's daughter in a rural village in Europe overrun by a cult-like group infected with a parasitic organism. Building off its excellent predecessor, Doom Eternal is arguably the best first-person shooter on PS4. Phenomenal gunplay gives life to an arsenal packed full of mods, alt-fires, and weapons only the folks over at ID Software could think of. With fast-paced action, plenty of combat arenas in which to experiment, and speedy movement, Doom Eternal feels like a game going at 100 miles per hour, but you're always in control. One of the franchises which gave birth to the FPS genre is back on top form, and we don't see much topping it. Listen, right, we aren't going to stop singing the praises of Dying Light until someone physically makes us. While not necessarily a cult game in the traditional sense, Dying Light hasn't achieved the amount of love and attention it deserves since launching in 2015. How can a game featuring parkour and zombies not have all of the love? Dying Light chucks players into an exotic, overrun city by the name of Heron as they look to find a cure for the zombie virus that's made everyone a bit nib-ly. While the days are fairly sedate, allowing you to dropkick bastards like there's no tomorrow, Dying Light turns into one of the PlayStation 4's best horror games at night. With meaty side content to tuck into once you've dusted off the main campaign and a hugely ambitious-looking sequel on the horizon for some time soon, you can pick up Dying Light for relative pennies, so there's no excuse not to try it. As a single-player experience, the Tomb Raider Trilogy is one of the best available on the PlayStation 4 or any other platform. This new trilogy acts as a prequel and a soft reboot that works as an origin story for Lara Croft. Each game shows her development as a survivalist, warrior, and the tomb-raiding archaeologist she is best known for. The visuals are stunning, with large maps to explore, and each game has some of the best stealth mechanics in the action-adventure genre. All three games have been released as part of a single collection. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. Thank you very much for following me this far and until next time, bye.